Good evening. This is Alan Farley, welcoming you to the final program in a series of programs recorded at the 1972 International Film Festival in San Francisco. Tonight, Rita Hayworth. Miss Hayworth was honored with an afternoon retrospective tribute, and included in the tribute was a showing of her film Tonight and Every Night in its entirety. Also film clips from Gilda and Blood and Sand, among other films. Here she is now interviewed by Albert Johnson with questions from the audience present at the festival.
What is there to say to us, ladies and gentlemen? Miss Rita Hayworth. I was just saying to Miss Hayworth, there's no need to be nervous because you're at home here, isn't that right? She's...
Thank you.
We've loved everything that we saw, of course. Everything. And I'm so happy that you came to visit us in San Francisco. It's marvelous indeed.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. I'm overwhelmed. I didn't expect anything.
Well, no,
I mean,
this is
like
San Francisco.
Of course.
Well, anyway, what we usually
what you
do,
saw.
we saw The Road to Selena first.
Oh, that was a
and we saw your favorite film, Convicted.
Convicted. What? Please. What was that? I
Oh, that was, just a little soup song that you did.
Convicted.
Along, Leon Basha or somebody did that. It was a fun thing we did. But that's not all we saw. We saw, Cover Girl and Blood and Sand and You Were Never Lovely and so forth. Separate tables.
Well, you saw Fred Astaire.
You saw him, yes.
Beautiful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, shall we have our conversation with Miss Hayworth? Are you all in awe or something? Yes, sir.
I'm in awe.
Yes. Yes. What is your sign of the zodiac?
You know something? It's Libra. I hate to tell you this, but that's what it is. It's like now, this month. Huh?
Were most of your films made in Hollywood? I'll just repeat it for those who can't hear. Were most of your films made in Hollywood, and which of your recent films were made in Hollywood? Which of your recent films were not made in Hollywood?
Most of them except The Road to Selena. And
The one with Rex Harrison.
the one with Rex Harrison, it was made in Spain. There was a picture with Bob Mitchum, Jack Lemmon, called the
Fire Down
Below, that was made abroad, and in the what's the island's name?
Is it the
British Island. It was
The Wrath of God? Where was that made?
Well, The Wrath of God I just finished making with Mitchum and some very good, fine actors. I sort of Frank Langella was one of the many, you know, but that was the last one.
But your next one
in Mexico. All of it was made in Mexico.
Is your next one in Europe?
In Guanajuato.
The next one is in Europe, I think, isn't it?
Yes. The next one will be in London.
Yes. Many people always ask, of course, what is your favorite picture, but was there any role that you turned down that you wished you hadn't turned down after you saw the picture?
Well, there's one movie I turned down before I did CoverGirl. And I said, in place of doing that movie, I'd rather do CoverGirl. And you know who was the star of that picture that I turned down? Were you ready? Cary Grant. And I turned it down for CoverGirl.
Oh, why not? CoverGirl is great.
And Gene Kelly, but I know, but you know, that's something. And but then I did work with Cary before Cary Grant in a picture called Only Angels Have Wings, which Howard Hawks, he was really responsible for finding me in that. You know, it was my first, what they say, major, at that time, major movie, you know.
Yeah.
And he chose me to do that because I was under contract to Columbia, and he was doing the picture there. So I was very pleased to work with Mr.
Yes, we saw something from it too. It's terrific, really terrific.
I don't know if you saw any of it.
Yeah, we did.
CoverGirl?
No, CoverGirl and Only Angels Have
Yes,
Wings. What was it like working with those people at the time? Cary Grant and Jean Arthur and
it was marvelous.
Thomas Mitchell.
I was terrified. I mean, I didn't have that much experience working with superstars such as Cary Grant was and Jean Arthur. I call superstars because they were, you know, and are. I mean, they will always be in that sense, you see.
Yes. The question regarded Miss Hayworth's work at Columbia Pictures and working under the big mogul producer Harry Cohn. Did she feel that her career was pretty much controlled by the studio and her image created by the studio? And there's another part, too. Oh, if Miss Hayworth felt that she was getting individualistic treatment, if she was being treated as a person, as such, in this kind of studio system.
I think it was a, I think I was treated as a person. As an actress, he loaned me out, you see. I had a 7-year contract with Columbia Studios. And during the first few years, he was a very bright man about handling, you know. So I went to the first picture I made outside of Columbia, and I was under contract to Harry Cohn. I made a picture called Blood and Sand with Ty Power. That was before I was known at all. You know, it was sort of the initial sort of thing in a major picture, like for instance, with Mr. Howard Hawks. And so he loaned me out to different studios. I did Strawberry Blonde on a loan out, but I got my salary on the 7-year contract. I got the salary that I got, but when he loaned me out, he would make a deal with these different people. He was very, very, very smart about it.
Well, you know, well, I think
pretty shrewd, I think, but
well, they had to be smart. I mean, but all of the...
But he did help in that way. It was a marvelous way to... He built me as a star in the studio through different studios, you know, and let them do all the, you know, publicity, and I did... It's kind of an interesting point of view.
In other words, after they were sure... After they were sure you were going to be a big star personality, then they invested in the
Then they
production.
invested, you know, and the first one who came along, wanted to do a film and lead, was Mr. Fred Astaire. And I did two films with him. And of course, he knew my father, because he worked with my father in vaudeville. You know, Fred Astaire and his sister, they worked together. My father worked with his sister in New York. And my father's a classic, Italian classic ballet. And so was his sister. They were trained for that. And I was trained in the same way, you know. So that when Fred heard that Margarita Carmen Dolores Cancino was under contract to Columbia, he said, "Oh, she's got to be fantastic," because he knew my father. They, through many years of dancing, and he knew what training I must have had.
Well, I think the dances that you do with Astaire are absolutely superb. And
that's because of
really superb dances.
Thank you.
Did he work out the dances, or was it done, say, by Hermes Pan and or Jack Cole or people like that?
Well, different films with Fred. I did 2 films with Fred, and he always did his own choreography. I worked with Hermes Pan and Pal Joey. I worked with him in My Gal Sal. I worked with different,
Which was the most difficult dance? That dance in CoverGirl where you have to come down that gigantic ramp.
No, that wasn't difficult. I just have acrophobia. And I thought I would never get down that ramp. They put me on a tiny postage stamp, thing like that at the top. They said, "Come down with the flowing gowns." Oh, wow. And the fog blowing.
There was lots.
There
was lots of
It was
fun.
wild.
Lots of fun.
And I love Gene Kelly. Yes. I love Gene, and I enjoyed working with him so much. I mean, that was when Phil Silvers.
It shows. It shows that you're having fun. Yes.
Hard work too.
Yes, sir. He wanted to know if you used your own singing voice in most of your movies.
No, I didn't. Not in all of them. I did in Gilda.
In some, yes. In some, not all.
In Gilda, I did.
In Zip.
And I did in Zip, in Pal Joey. And I did. See, at that time, when I did Gilda, they had the big bands. So they had big band singers, It was a whole different sort of thing. Well, I didn't sing with a big band, but I sang with a guitar and I played it.
Well, it's obvious.
In a scene that was in the bar in Gilda, there was one scene when I did the thing quietly. That was me.
The only moment that I always find a bit amusing is not in a derogatory way, but in Blood and Sand, when you suddenly burst into this high, Bidou Sal.
Oh, well, that was obviously.
Yes, that's not Miss Hayworth.
I couldn't sing flamenco that well. No. That's very difficult. That was truly, a flamenco.
But you knew how to hit the guitar.
Well, I really learned every chord on it, practically. I did that, but I couldn't. The flamenco style is very difficult. You have to be born there, live there. Although my father they came from the south of Spain. I didn't learn it because I was raised in the United States. And that's something that you're born with. Special.
It's called soul, I believe. In the 1940s, the gentleman says you were connected a lot with the Oomph girl, Anne Sheridan. Was this studio publicity?
Oh, I think only because Miss Sheridan had refused to do. She had some kind of difference or something, not refused, with Warner Brothers, and she was to do Strawberry Blonde, and they were looking for something, so they asked Harry Cohen. Well, there we go. He loaned me out again.
Yeah, well, you're terrific.
And I did Strawberry Blonde because she didn't wish to do it for whatever reason her reason was, I don't know.
I also thought that was wonderful, Strawberry Blonde. Raoul Walsh is coming here.
Yes.
He in fact, you'll see him tomorrow. He's going to call.
So.
Yes. He looks forward to seeing you.
Lovely.
The question concerns Orson Welles, the lady from Shanghai. Did you, Miss Hayworth, consider this a departure from the roles that you usually have been playing? Okay.
And it was, it was a very good film. It was ahead of its, time and everything. And it was a departure for me. And I wanted to do it, and I did it. And I think it's just fantastic, because he's an innovator. It's interesting to work with anybody who has that much imagination.
How was the mirror scene? I mean, how long did it take to do that mirror scene? And did you get cut by any glass? Or were you really firing the guns?
No, it was done by all trick shots, but it was a fabulous scene, I think. It was really fantastic.
Yes, sir. For the lady in Shanghai, did you wear a blonde wig, or did you have your hair bleached for the lady from Shanghai?
I had it bleached, and it hurt. because my hair's black.
Is there somebody in the back that I'm not seeing? If you can think of such a thing. What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you during the shooting of a film?
Let's see, what was the most embarrassing? What a lot. Let me see.
Tell us
It's
some.
a long story. No, dancing with Fred Astaire once in a film. I think it was You Were Never Lovelier, and we had a Formica floor, and we were rehearsing, and we were dancing like man, you know, throwing and everything, and I went zoom, spread eagle around the floor, and was knocked out.
Knocked out?
I slipped on the floor. They had, we were rehearsing for the take in the picture. I fell right out, flat eagle, bang. So the next thing I knew, I was sitting up on, they sat me up on a chair, and I just said, what happened? Fred said, you just slipped on the floor. He was furious because they hadn't finished it properly. That was kind of embarrassing. Here I am dancing with the great Fred Astaire, and bang, right on my face, spread eagle out, dong, and but let's see what else. I don't know what else is embarrassing.
No, that's all right. That's good enough, I think.
It's not like a theater, because in the theater, some things can be very embarrassing. In the screen, they can stop it, so you don't really break all your teeth.
Oh. Yes, Miss. With your obvious acting talent, Miss Hayworth, how is it that you've never done anything on the stage?
Oh, because I've been more involved with films. I've thought about it many times. But I don't...
A simple musical like Macbeth.
Oh, I'd love to do something like that.
Oh, that was too hard.
No, it wasn't too hard. It's just a matter that it didn't work out in the way that I, wanted it to, and I'm a perfectionist. And I will not do a stage play or a musical without having plenty of time to rehearse, and I didn't have enough time. For me, I didn't have enough time. You should have seen Mr. Astaire. He had 2 months rehearsal or 3. Now, if he, I said, I can't do it in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to dancing, and I want to be able to do it for the public, my very top point.
And that shows too. Thank you. That shows.
Thank you.
Yes. Is it true that is it a restaurant? Nepenthe.
What?
It's in Carmel, I believe. It's a rather fantastic. Big Sur. It's a fantastic.
Oh yes.
Was that built for you?
I didn't think of it in those terms at that time. If I'd known, it was a cabin. It didn't have any water or gas or anything, a fireplace. Beautiful spot. I can see it all now. I wish I'd kept it. I couldn't afford to keep it. I couldn't pay for the taxes at the time.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Well, you know what? I don't wake up in the morning and look at it at all. I wake up in the afternoon.
There's someone here, yes. The question concerns, would Miss Hayworth like to live in Los Angeles as opposed to Spain or some other more exotic place, Canary Islands or things like that?
Well, I like to live around the world. I mean, if I could. I'd like to have a house, a little niche in every country. That's the way I feel. But I can't, so right now I live in Beverly Hills. Tough, isn't it?
The question refers to Miss Hayworth's proximity to grass in the road to Selena.
In the road to Selena? No, that's it. I didn't, we didn't use, the real stuff. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Who was the most difficult person to dance with in terms of technique?
Neither one were difficult to dance with. They are both fabulous technicians and dancers, and they were not difficult to dance with. It was a great pleasure. A lot of work, a lot of hard work. We rehearsed hours and hours. The same with...
Who had the hardest steps?
Oh, well, that's a difficult... everybody has a style. So in each style, there are very difficult things to do. I mean, it's like you can't put it in those terms, really.
Well, yes, for trained dancers, they don't think in terms of the hardest steps. And in fact, they look for steps, perhaps, that are hard to do.
That are difficult, but graceful. Huh?
Yes. I'm sorry I didn't repeat it. The one gentleman had asked why Miss Hayworth hadn't done the play Applause, and briefly it was a matter of rehearsal time.
The amount of time to be able to be prepared to do it the way I would want to do it,
All right, wait a minute. I just want to get someone else.
The preparation wasn't long enough. I wanted a little bit more time.
All right, next. Yes, miss. What were some of your leading men like, the famous leading men to work with? Do you have a favorite or anything like that?
No, I don't have a favorite. The people I've worked with, the leading men, they've all been great. People to work with, I can't, they're professionals. That's what they are. And when they're professionals, when people are professionals, they work together, and that's that. I mean, there's no favorite.
All right. Yes, miss. The lady says, do you know that Fred Astaire has said that you are the easiest person to dance with? He told me you were the best.
Thank you.
This lady heard that you were the easiest. Miss Hayworth is not a distant relation to Ginger Rogers.
No, not at all.
I beg pardon?
Thought she was great. She did some great movies.
Ginger Rogers
did some great movies. What do you mean, who?
Yes. Yes, sir. Was your mother in show business as well?
Oh, yes, but she was in summer stock outside of Washington, D.C. And she didn't follow through, but she was in the Ziegfeld Follies. That's where she met my father.
But Lillian Gish is not Miss Hayworth's mother.
No. But they did have a resemblance. There's something very, 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 very much like...
There's a physical resemblance, you mean, between the two?
A face, kind of...
Is it... Uh-huh. Ah.
Yes. Yes.
The gentleman thinks that there is this quality that Miss Gish has that
it does resemble, very much so, yes.
What was it like being a big sex symbol?
I thought it was fine.
It was fun.
It
seems like it would
be
fun. It would be fun.
See, it was lovely. I mean, it was difficult. I was starting out in the movies, and it was the beginning of something, and then I gradually got into other things, that I acting, like separate tables and things like that, and I danced. You see, I was a dancer. I was trained as a ballet dancer from the time I was 4 years old. I went to Carnegie Hall. So don't forget that.
What did you think of the story on page 1, which was written by and directed by Clifford Odets?
Well, I was a great, great fan of his, of course, and he was a brilliant writer and a wonderful person. It was his first directorial job. And I enjoyed working with him. I liked working with him very much. And I admired him as a writer. He was an innovator, too. So that's a privilege to be able to work with him.
Could you tell us something about your next film?
Well, I'm going to London on November the 2nd. That's about what I can tell you right now. No, it's the film I'm going to do in London. Ralph Richardson, Sir Ralph Richardson, and it's an episodic sort of thing.
An omnibus, sort of like
a four
stories
piece, yeah.
Like Tales of Manhattan was.
Like Tales of Manhattan. It's a four, the director. I think that the man who's going to do it isn't, and it's. I'll know 2 days from now because something happened that it's been changed.
In other words, it's show business.
Well, I haven't got a name yet.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's sort of an interesting, something called.
Yes, sir. In the middle. Yes. The gentleman is asking Miss Hayworth to comment on how such a project as The Lady from Shanghai came to be filmed. Such an unusual film for the period to be made by a studio. In other words, there's a great deal of gossip about it, that Orson Welles looked at the cover of a magazine once and saw The Lady from Shanghai and wanted to do it. And there's another story that Mr.
No,
Cohen...
I never really asked him. I just did the movie. I wanted to be directed by Orson Welles.
But you don't remember any difficulties in getting the film made as such?
No.
I don't think, a lot of those stories, are just written for publicity reasons. I've discovered this to be true.
Where they begin or end,
right. In other words, there at least, especially during that period, there were people who were paid just to write things about personalities and stars to keep their names in the paper.
Well, image or something, but those images can be difficult.
Sometimes you don't even have to be a big star to have that. I mean, I read in the paper that I was in a film that I'm not even in. A Western yet. I think that's just gossip, really.
I didn't get any pressure. I had 2 films to do with Columbia. I'd finished one with Robert Mitchum and Jack Lemmon, and then I decided they wanted me. I had 3 pictures left on the contract with Columbia. That's like I was there 18 years and I had 3 pictures left. So I did the one, that thing, Fire Down Below, and then I came in and I said, I'll do 2 more pictures, Pal Joey, which they had. So I did Pal Joey, and I did another one. What was the name of it? I've forgotten now what I had to Affair in Trinidad. Oh, that was something.
Not
anyway.
One of your favorites.
So I did that, and then I was finished with the contract altogether then.
What do you do with your life when you're not working?
Well, I'm working all the time and thinking of things to do, but I study singing, voice. I have a lot of things I do. I have many interests in other things that I like when I'm not working. I go and rehearse for applause for about 2 months.
How was it to work with Charles Boyer?
Oh, divine. Beautiful, sweet, lovely man, good actor.
Do you ever see any of your co-stars?
Oh, yeah, Gene Kelly, Glenn Ford.
Yeah?
I'll see them, yes. And Fred Astaire.
How long did it take to shoot the Hall of Mirrors scene in Lady from Shanghai?
Oh, I should say about a day and a half.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saying to Rita Hayworth, you're terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've heard Rita Hayworth talking with Program Director of the San Francisco Film Festival, Albert Johnson, and the studio audience. This was recorded at the San Francisco International Film Festival on October 14th, 1972. For KPFA, this is Alan Farley.